Hello, my name is Asher. I'm a master of ancient traditions. Since childhood, I have felt that my destiny was something special. My mother told me that when I was born, she felt the presence of angels, that there was something special. I was the fourth child she brought into this world. And she told me, I know I have experience giving birth to children. When you were born, something was present. Of course, I was helped by my ancestors because both of my grandfathers were spiritual people. One was a deeply religious man who prayed for everyone during the war. The other practiced shamanism and was known as a healer throughout the Soviet Union. People would come to him to be healed. Of course, they helped me as well. They also prayed for me. When I was born, all my ancestors, my grandfathers, passed on to the subtle realm, and I felt that through the world of energy, they were helping me. However, besides that, I also sensed that there was something much greater. Besides my ancestors, apart from those people who raised me and gave me certain spiritual perspectives on life, who spoke about prayers and religions, I felt that there was something more. And then a pivotal, vivid moment came in my life. When I was 17, I read my first spiritual books. That's when books about shamanism appeared. That's when books about yoga became available, and I began practicing these disciplines. It was a kind of thaw during the Soviet Union, the period of Gorbachev, when perestroika began and people started reaching out for knowledge. And I developed an interest in everything unknown, in mysticism, in energy practices, in spirituality, in what lies beyond ordinary physical sight. I was interested in questions about the third eye, how to control energy, what teleportation is, what the subtle body is, what it means to communicate with the world of energy. And at 18, when I turned 18, I found myself in the Far East, in Siberia, at Lake Baikal, in places where people were close to ancient traditions, close to shamanism. And there I got my first glimpse of the idea that nature can help, that you can communicate with nature. I felt that, yes, there is something special in this world, and that this subtle realm senses me. There were several occasions when a miracle literally saved me and my friends from trouble, or even from death. And during that period, from 18 to 20 and a half years old, I was constantly in nature and felt a deep connection with the forces of nature, with the elements. I began to appeal to them. I started reaching out to the spirits, started addressing the river, the mountains, marveling at nature, and I felt that yes, there was something truly special in it. But at that time, I still didn't feel that this would become my mission. And at the age of 22, I had a profound spiritual and mystical experience during which I felt energy. I felt that my whole body was made of energy, and I had this experience where I realized that if I didn't study this world of energy, if I didn't study the world of knowledge, if I didn't learn ways to control energy, to communicate with the spirit, then my life would go wrong. I started having these mystical dreams. I saw spiritual teachers. At that time, I attended all the spiritual movements that existed in my city. When I returned from the taiga to the city where I lived, I met people there who had brought knowledge from the center of Siberia. They told me about ancient traditions, about the unified world, about the world of knowledge, about Kailash, and about the sages of Kailash. So all of this flowed into my life, and it completely began to change my outlook. I started to feel that my purpose was to experience something special in life, this energy that comes from a higher plane. The first knowledge I received was that every person can be initiated into ancient knowledge, into ancient traditions. At first, I thought that I needed to study certain specific things, for example, yoga, shamanism, or healing, or something else, to study different directions. But gradually I realized that there is a single world. There are the sages of Kailash, there is a star messenger on earth, and all these forces speak of a unified knowledge. I found the same thing in the spiritual books of the major religions, the main cultures. And there too, it spoke about a single world, about God who created everything, about the universe, about living intelligence, about unified consciousness, about the world consciousness. And it was there that I had an encounter with a spiritual school, which brought me this feeling, this vision, that there is a single world, unified knowledge, and a single energy. And then I realized that the meaning of a person's life, the meaning of their soul, will only be revealed when you begin to help others. And these powerful experiences that I had in my youth gave me the main impetus to start engaging in spiritual development and studying ancient traditions. The main ancient traditions that became part of my life were yoga, spiritual healing, and shamanism. Then I began to study more and more the techniques of Sambo, techniques of energetic protection and energetic cleansing. In my future videos, I want to talk in detail about each of these traditions and also about others. But for now, I'll just briefly mention this and talk about the main point. The main reason I created this channel and I'm now communicating with you, sharing about these ancient traditions, is to convey that there is a unified knowledge. And it is necessary to arrive at living knowledge. There are many modern traditions about yoga, about healing, about shamanism. However, these traditions have lost their original power because people are simply repeating some knowledge. They simply do the exercises without understanding their deeper meaning. They just beat the drum without realizing the profound mystery it holds. They simply practice healing or helping other people without understanding that the most important thing in life for every person, for every living being, is to connect with a higher power so that such a contact arises in the soul, so that love appears, grace arises, joy emerges. A state of light is born when you are literally bursting with this energy and you want to share this energy with others. And this state is the most important of all. This state is the most valuable, the brightest. Of course, there are some difficulties, problems, there are challenges. I had them too. I had them because simply feeling this energy is one thing. But bringing this energy to another person, now that of course is not so simple because every person has their own outlook on life, their own culture, their own habits. Many people have already developed certain habits in life and it's hard for them to change. Some lead an unhealthy lifestyle, some have relationships that destroy their destiny and their energy. So I began to look for ways to bring knowledge to people. And here I chose the main methods that are close to my spirit and that I could easily explain. But of course, these are spiritual healing techniques because that was the first thing my soul opened up to, what I was inclined toward, and what my ancestors taught me. And then a star messenger revealed this to me. After that, I delved deeper into shamanic practices and in parallel studied techniques of energy combat. Since childhood, I practiced martial arts and I was drawn to certain elements of energy transmission, transmitting energy to those around me with feeling, with strength. And I also want to tell you now that each of you accumulates a certain amount of energy and information throughout the day. And life shows that most of the information you receive during the day, most energies, as well as energetic connections and contacts, are destructive for a person and are not beneficial. In other words, they throw you off balance, they prevent you from remembering who you really are. Do you understand the situation? And that is why in the spiritual world, in shamanism, and in the Sampo system, there are many techniques for energetic protection. What are these techniques based on? First of all, you need to understand throughout the day, throughout your life, there is a constant flow of information. And I was not taught, and you can realize that you were not taught from childhood how to work with energy. You were taught some simple things. Well, if it's cold, dress warmly, be careful with hot water, with fire, or with electricity. You were taught to brush your teeth, you were taught to wash your body, to wash your face. However, no one revealed to you the concept of energy, that there is a lot of information. If you pick up your phone, if you watch TV, if you are in some public place, if you interact with someone, then information enters your energy, your energetic cocoon. And this information often blocks your own desires, your own aspirations. You might remember that as a child you had certain desires, certain goals. For example, before you went to school or entered university, many girls had their own goals and desires before marriage, but when they met a partner and started living together, they sort of forgot about their own goals. When you were a young person, you had certain aspirations, but then you grew up, started working, began living in a certain social world, in a certain society with its own rules, and you forget what was originally inside you. That's why I urge you not so much to resist the outside world, but rather to understand your own individuality. And this knowledge has always been kept very deep inside. These were known by priests, by the priests of Atlantis, by masters of ancient traditions in Egypt or India, in Siberia. Certain special people who practiced magic in Mexico also knew about these secrets. They knew about these secrets, especially shamans in Peru or Brazil, who in ancient times had heard of the greatest knowledge that could help a person purify themselves. But this knowledge was not passed on, because knowledge is always power. Knowledge is energy. It is great power, immense power, and it can both help and destroy. That is why, for a long time, these masters of ancient traditions did not speak of this great knowledge. However, now is a time when the world is already being destroyed. ecology, wars, suffering, constant disasters, and an abundance of negative information. We see that the earth is being destroyed. And that is why now is the time when this ancient knowledge must be revealed. That is precisely why I created this channel. I want to communicate with you, to share this great ancient knowledge with you. And here is one of the most ancient teachings. During the day, a person accumulates information, energy, and contacts. And you need to learn first to enter a state of calm and meditation. Inhale, exhale, disconnect from external vibrations, then turn to the higher powers. Please, higher powers, I need your help right now. I need your energy. I need your support. I feel that I have forgotten my goals, forgotten the state of happiness, joy, and love. Thoughts of worries, food, and rest come to me, even though I want to feel happiness. Please, higher powers, help me. Open yourself to the energy of the spiritual school, the spiritual egregore. Open yourself to the sages of Kailash, the star messenger, to all the higher powers that exist on earth, whom I will gradually introduce you to. Open yourself to these energies and ask them for help. Higher forces of light, send me your help now. I lack energy, strength, and awareness. Send me your joy, love, and strength so that I can now act actively, righteously, wisely, and powerfully. Accept this energy. Feel that your body is filled with energy, that you are like a pillar of energy between the sky and the earth, that you are a mighty tree whose roots grow deep into the ground and whose crown reaches the stars. You are a very strong and great being. You inhale, I take in energy, and exhale. I disconnect from old ties, from negative contacts. For example, the thought of being tired, the thought that I won't succeed, the thought that I am not worthy, that I am afraid, that I shouldn't do this, that right now I need to somehow hide, rest, but not move forward. All these thoughts may not even be yours, so cast them away from yourself. Take a breath in, and as you exhale with a ha, throw out these negative energies. Inhale, ha, throw it out. An even more powerful and advanced sound is not just ha, but hurai, a mantra of purification, luck, light, happiness, and strength. So as you inhale, feel the higher powers, and on the exhale, hurai. And since the vibration is strong coming from above, it cleanses you. Once again, chant the word hurai, and once again, I cleanse myself completely, hurai. And then, once more, as you take a very deep breath and inhale, slowly raise both of your hands high above your head. And with the sacred mantra Mangalam, you carefully set up a powerful protective field of energy all around you. If you master this practice at our seminars in the company of like-minded people, or even better, out in nature, and fully learn this technique, then you can perform it at any time, even if you are on public transport or driving a car by doing the practice mentally. My dear ones, I am a master of ancient traditions. I have come for you to reveal ancient knowledge, to introduce you to ancient techniques, to teach you how to connect with the higher power, and to do so using the energy that is within you. If you add to what I'm saying a proper lifestyle, if you consult with me on how to live in a way that gives you strength, if you help other people create a space of harmony, love, and light, if you do all this and add energy protection practices and practices to calm the mind, then your life will gain deep meaning. And remember, everything pales before the truth. You will succeed. God be with you.